The Magic Paintbrush, Chapter 22. The three of them huddled in the underbrush, ears straining for the sound of an approaching tautai. No one spoke. Amy pressed against Luna, her knees drawn to her chest. Every boom of her heart seemed loud enough to be heard in the United States. But every passing minute brought them more hope. Maybe they'd gotten away. Amy's stomach started to unclench. Unfortunately, she also started to feel every ache and bruise. She shifted, wincing. "Hold still," Lala said gently. "Let me check your back. Did the creature scratch you?" "Ah, no, you're lucky. Not even a little bit." "Are you okay?" Amy asked. Lala smiled. "Perfectly okay, thanks to you and your Howdo. And to Luna, is it?" "Yes, Luna." She hugged him closer. Under the moonlight, he looked as startlingly strange as ever. Maybe Lala caught the protective edge in Amy's voice, because she said, without a hint of amusement or sarcasm, "Thank you for your help, Luna." "You're welcome," Luna replied, equally solemn. Then he brightened, and giddiness replaced all gravity. "I've never carried two people before. Not bad, huh?" "Very impressive," Amy said, laughing. "As was your painting." Lala's hand squeezed Amy's. The compliment made Amy blush, torn between embarrassment and pride. "I'm just glad it worked." "Worked? I'd say you excelled." Now her grandmother was exaggerating. Amy shrugged and was glad when Luna interrupted to ask, "Did that tautai really kidnap you because it was looking for our paintbrush?" "I'm afraid so." Lala shook her head. "Like I said, Amy, this wasn't how I wanted things to go. When I first learned about the brush, well, it was a much more joyous occasion." Lala didn't seem to blame her for everything that had happened, but Amy felt a rush of guilt anyway. "I'm sorry. I didn't mean to use the brush. I mean, I wouldn't have, except I got startled, and I broke it. And oh, don't worry about that, my dear. You didn't break it. It was already broken." "Already broken?" Lala took pity on her obvious confusion. "Let's just start from the beginning, shall we? When I was little, I lived next door to an old man who didn't have any family. My siblings thought he was an eccentric loner, but I was intrigued. Soon he and I struck a deal. I'd go over to help him with chores, and in return, he gave me painting lessons." It was hard to imagine Lala as a child, her face smooth wrinkles and soft with baby fat. "He was such a talented artist, and over the years we became very good friends. One day he had a bit of a health scare. Everyone thought he might not make it. As soon as he was on the upswing, before he'd even left the hospital, he called me to his side and entrusted me with his greatest secret." Lala pinned Amy with the weight of her gaze, as if deliberating whether she, too, could be trusted. Amy straightened. "He told me that centuries ago, when gods still meddled directly in human affairs, there was an orphan boy blessed with cunning hands and observant eyes. He could watch a sunset and recreate it with flower petals. He could copy the river froth with different shades of stone. But what he really loved was painting." Lala's voice gave a rhythm to every sentence. Amy and Luna listened, enraptured. "Now, the boy was so poor he didn't have food for his belly, let alone money for brushes and paint. He used what he could, twigs and hair plucked from the village cats. Even so, his paintings were so impressive that the gods left their sky palaces just to see them. And as a token of their appreciation, they gifted him a magical paintbrush." Could this story possibly be true? If Amy had been a few years younger, she would have believed it wholeheartedly. Luna certainly seemed to. "The brush turned everything he painted real," Lala said. "Before long, the local lord caught wind of it and sent his soldiers to steal the brush. The man was already powerful and cruel, but magic made him unstoppable. And then? Luna and Amy demanded in unison. Lala shook her head. The details are lost to time. The Lord protected himself with nightmarish monsters. Monsters that he painted to life. A few surviving records call them Taotai. Everyone thought they were indestructible. But somehow the orphan boy destroyed them all and stole back the brush. Maybe he drew himself a Taotai fighting machine, Luna said. Perhaps, Lala said. All I know is that for the rest of his life, the boy kept his magical brush safe from anyone who'd use it for harm. And when he got too old to guard the brush, he passed it on to someone trustworthy, who then passed it on to someone else, and so on, until it came to my painting teacher, and then, eventually, to me. A brush guardian, Luna said. Lala smiled. Exactly. If you knew about the paintbrush, Amy said, why was it in a dusty old box? Are the guardians not supposed to use it? Lala's expression turned troubled. It takes a very specific mindset to use the brush correctly. You must envision what you want, then hold it in your mind just so. The more detailed your imaging, the more likely you'll get what you aim for. But you can't be too rigid either. The brush detests anything ordinary or copied. It wants things that are fresh, unique, darling. If what you are trying to create isn't interesting enough for it, it'll add its own amusement. And it has a sly sense of humor. You talk about it as if it's alive, Luna said. Amy remembered the presence that had slipped into her mind when she painted its eagle wings, and the skylance, and the hoodoo. Maybe the brush was alive, in a way. I painted with the brush when I was younger, Lala said, but things happened, and my imagination freezes up now whenever I hold the brush. That prevents me from using its full power. Amy could tell there was another story behind that statement, but she could tell, too, that it wasn't one Lala was ready to share. So she asked a different question, one that had been bothering her. That man at the mansion, how did he get a Taotai? Someone must have saved a painting all these years, Lala said. Saved a... Oh, the answer hit her. On the first night, soon after she'd brought Luna to life, he'd accidentally broken the jade paintbrush, then promptly disappeared, along with everything else she'd drawn. She'd even written it down as a rule. When the brush breaks, everything it created disappears, and then below it, things painted with the broken brush become real after the paintbrush is repaired. So the Taotai who'd kidnapped Lau Lau, who Amy and Luna had chased all the way to China, who'd nearly captured them all back in the cavern, it was her fault. Undeniably. Lau Lau must have seen the shame on her face, because she drew Amy close and cupped her cheek. Chen Wang is hardly the first person to come after this paintbrush, and Taotai or not, he's not going to be the first one to succeed. Not on our watch. Was this really the same grandmother who Amy had feared would be more boring than a houseplant? If Lau Lau was a houseplant, she was something exotic, with teeth. Amy started to argue that she wasn't a guardian of anything, let alone a magical paintbrush. Who would trust her with something like that? But Lau Lau's confidence filled her with warmth. She couldn't bring herself to disagree. Lau Lau's stomach growled, and she laughed. Even the best guardians are human, I guess. Oh, I can take care of that, Amy said. What do you want? I can't promise it'll be tasty, but I had some great luck with boba. She reached into her pocket for the paintbrush, then froze. It wasn't there.